I am very honored to be standing on the stage today. I will be talking about the power of not yet. My subtitle is Improve Your Testing Skills. In reality, I'll be talking quite a lot about learning skills and making it safe enough for you to learn. How to take care of yourself that you don't feel all that overwhelmed. Now, in the IT industry that we work in, it is a very, very fast-changing industry. I came to this industry from a different field. I studied English language and culture with a focus in literature and theatre science. So for me to go into IT, I had to have a very, very rapid learning curve in order to do my job well. Now, fortunately, the one skill we need to succeed in IT is a learning skill. The ability to learn rapidly and fast. The thing is, our IT industry is changing so incredibly rapidly that it can get really overwhelming on how to keep up. We've been hearing in the talks, in the keynotes, how it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, our world is different, how will it look in 2030, we can't even imagine it yet. We have all these new technologies that have become mainstream in a really rapid period of time. We hear about blockchain, chatbots, AI, virtual reality, augmented reality. How are we ever going to choose and keep up? That's what I'll be talking about today, on how to choose what you're going to learn, how to get yourself in a mindset that you're able to learn it so that you don't get overwhelmed. A lot of the times when we see information coming at us in this way, this is how we feel. How many of you can code in this room? Can you raise your hands, please? That's cool. How many of you can paint? How many can crochet? I can do that too. I keep on forgetting to raise my own hand. Speak on a stage. Chair a meeting. It's interesting that you all raise your hands on different aspects, because very often people feel very comfortable doing the one thing and very uncomfortable doing the other. So as soon as you say, I cannot do this, you're in a fixed mindset. This is a fact, I cannot do this. And you limit yourself. This is a very healthy approach in a lot of situations because you're not overwhelmed, you're just like, I'm not going to do this. But it leaves no room for growth. It leaves no room for learning. So what we want to do in order to learn, to open our minds, is to have a growth mindset. Realization that we all have the ability to learn anything. Very often we believe that, of course, I can learn this thing that I already have some skill in. I can learn coding if I already know some basis of test automation. I can learn how this blockchain works because I've had some background in IT already. But learn to paint a realistic painting with oil paints that will actually, resemble what we're looking at. Most people will not believe me when I say that there are courses that can teach you how to do this in 1 week's time. An intense course, admittedly, but it is a craft like coding is. And it is just as teachable and just as learnable as code is. And for people who paint and love all the artistic aspects of it, they look at coding apps and they're like, I can use them. No idea how they work. I don't think I'll ever be able to learn this. Math is another thing. We are very often, especially as women, told, I'm not good at math. I can't do math. We can. We all can. We all have an ability to learn. This is a different picture of the comfort, learning, and panic zone than perhaps you are accustomed to. Very often, we look at these comfort, learning, and panic zones as circles that are ever expanding. But in my experience, that is not how it works. In my experience, you can go from comfort to panic without ever passing learning. So, and very often as well in our society, we say you have to come out of your comfort zone. In order to innovate our organizations at work, we have to get everybody out of their comfort zone. We have to push everyone out of their comfort zone. And the reality is that when we do that, when we push people out of their comfort zone, we push them straight into panic. Because we have not got consent from them. We don't know where their boundaries are, because every single boundary on this one, comfort, learning, and panic, is individual. So something that is very, very comfortable for me might get you in a panic state, and vice versa. So when I push you out of your comfort zone, I'm pushing you over boundaries I don't know where they are. So as organizations, as people, as coaches, as teams, as departments, we don't push people out of their comfort zones. We entice them into a learning zone. We encourage them, we show them what they could do, and we encourage them to take the step into what is in their learning zone. This is my ode to the comfort zone as well. A comfort zone is a very healthy place to be. It is a place to recharge, to de-stress, to debrief, to take a deep breath, to be at ease. And it is from that position of ease that you can choose to embark on learning. Gitte will talk tonight about feeling safe to be uncomfortable. It is very important for us to be safe to step into our learning zone where we get to be made to feel uncomfortable. But we know that there's the safety net. We know we're safe to do that. In the learning zone, we feel stretched. It's exciting. There's a lot of new input happening. There's a lot of different ways in which we can learn. We're unfamiliar with this territory, so it's a bit scary. But when we're in this learning zone, although we might be uncomfortable, we're still safe. The moment we come into panic zone is when we don't quite know how to deal with this anymore. We get anxiety, we get frustration, we feel overwhelmed. It is in panic that we very often have a very fixed mindset, because we're trying to get ourselves back to comfort zone. We're trying to get ourselves back to a position of ease. And we need to do this in order to then get back to learning and get back to growth. So the important thing here is you all define your own boundaries. Where are your limits? And whenever you find yourself in a situation where you're anxious or scared or frustrated, get yourself back to a position of ease. Allow yourself to be in your comfort zone. And don't let anybody tell you you have to be pushed out of it all the time. And then choose actively to step into your learning zone, to stretch yourself, to go into unfamiliar territory. If we want to coach other people on stepping into their learning zone, we entice them, we encourage them, we show them what is possible, and we ask for consent. Can I coach you on this? Would you like some feedback on this? May I give you feedback on this? Is this the right time for you to do this? Now, when it comes to learning, when it comes to IT, there's all these different things which we can learn, and we can't do it all. We can't be a specialist in this and 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 this, and we don't need to be. In order to thrive in our industry, we don't need to know everything. But we do need to realize that we could learn anything, which is very different. Now, I promised in my abstract that I would give you some practical advice on learning, on improving your testing skills. Testing for me is questioning, is seeking, is learning about our products, our teams, and keep on pushing people with questions and say, hey, how's this? How does this work? Can we do this? What happens if we do this? And it's challenging, and it's engaging. But for me to really make progress and to learn, I'll share some of my personal journey. So I entered the IT industry 5 years ago. I did a brief retraining course in IT. I had a lot of new inputs and new learning, and I was fully engaged, and I was very happy to do this. I was very comfortable in my learning zone. And I started work. I learned on the job, and I had a team where, although the first few months worked, I had a senior who would not answer any of my questions. So what happened was I'd find an issue, or I'd have a situation, a product I needed, an issue I needed to develop, feature I needed to develop, terms. And I couldn't figure it out. I would Google. If you're very, very junior, you don't quite know what to Google for yet. But even so, all the advice that I got from there still didn't get me anywhere. So I went to my senior and said, look, I can't figure this out. Can you help me? This is what I've already done. And this is all the information I've currently found. But none of this has worked. And then the senior would look with me for about an hour, maybe 2 hours, and say, I can't figure this out. Just go search for a little bit more. Which is not very conducive to learning, because I'd already tried that. He hadn't given me any new pointers on how I could learn. So this wasn't a team in which I could continue to grow. This wasn't a team where I was supported enough to develop myself. Now, fortunately, I had just gotten a new manager, and I raised this issue with her and a number of other situations that had happened. And she went and looked at me and said, okay, so where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And I said something like, well, I like working with SQL. I like all the databases that we have and all the ETL stuff. So maybe something along those lines. And she looked at me and said, you need to figure it out first. So over the next few weeks, I have a couple of members in my other teams. You can talk to them. Just reach out, have a coffee, and talk it over. And she opened that door for me to reach out to other people and say, okay, what is it that you do? Make it more specific. What is it that you do? What is it that you like? How does this work? How did you get into this field? What do you love about that? Hey, there's this coding challenge happening. Let's go and look. And in the space of 3 weeks, this kind of escalates really quickly. I had 20 conversations with different people, and there were 3 different teams who said, oh, you're interested in looking for a different position. Oh, we got some. You want to come? So suddenly I had a lot of choice in where I wanted to go next. And I found a department and a team that would support me, that had an onboarding program ready, that for the first month didn't expect any work of me, but just said, we're going to teach you how our entire process works, and then we're going to let you loose in this team. And from there, I developed really rapidly from a junior to a media tester and finally to a senior tester position, because the environment was there for me to learn. So I have 4 different categories of people here on my slide. Sponsors are people who open doors for you. It is the manager who gave me the opportunity, who pushed me forward and said, there's these other teams, there's these other opportunities. I don't care if you stay within my department or you move to another department altogether, as long as you stay for our company because we want to keep you and you're good. And she made that happen for me. When I found a new position, she made sure that I got moved over within the month. That would not have happened had she not been supportive. I would have left the company and probably felt rather insecure because this was my first IT job and it's like, what's happening? Coaches help me set my goals. I did a training 2 years ago, which I've talked about on stage before. It's a very personal development and leadership training. And you go into the mountains for a week. It's really, really intense. And then you set yourself a challenge for the 6 months after. And it's really about your goals, your journey, your growth. So in monthly conversations I would have with this coach, we would assess where am I in the process, what are my next goals, what are the steps that I'm going to take. And they don't need to know any of the content, they are not teaching me information, but they are helping me develop my journey and set my own personal goals. Teachers, on the other hand, teachers can give me very structured instructions. The painting course I was talking about is a full instruction-led course by a teacher who knows how paintings are supposed to look, what kind of techniques you're supposed to use in order to create a certain effect. And those teachers help you get to a finished painting in the end. My sketchnoting workshop that I gave yesterday for people was very instruction-based. Here I am in front of a whiteboard, or in front of flip charts, because it's paper, and I will draw and you will copy me. And I'm very, very pleased to see so many sketch notes happening today. When I want to learn automation, I can go online and I can search and I can find some online courses, but I can only do so much myself. So I go and talk to someone like Angie Jones, who's a very, very good teacher on test automation. And I learn from her in her teaching role. And then there are role models. I talked earlier about the difference between fixed and growth is the realization that you can learn anything at all. You don't have to learn everything, but you can learn anything. Role models are there to show me what I didn't even know I could dream of. So the family I grew up in is a very loving family. I'm very lucky to have them. My father is very seriously ill and has been for my life. It will not change. But it means that he's had to give up his work, which he feels really, really sad about. And my mom is a carer. She stayed home and put her career on hold to take care of the family due to that situation. Now, I didn't know anyone, anywhere, who actually worked in a company like a bank or a non-profit or traveled the world for work. I didn't know anyone at all. So for me, when I came to choose about what do I want to do, I'd always been in schools throughout my lifetime because you have to go to school as a child. And I did an English degree out of pure passion. I studied medicine first, which I love that we have doctors. I'm very happy not to be one. But I came and I had this panic, like, what am I going to do? I had my teaching qualification, so I went back into school as a teacher. This worked. Except it wasn't quite a career that I really wanted to pursue. So role models are absolutely vital. We've talked about this before. Susan and Janet mentioned this in their opening keynote on, not Monday, on Tuesday. You can't be what you can't see. So for me to have a friend who encouraged me to go into IT, who just looked at me and we talked about the situation. I'd been meeting with a couple of people about, what am I going to do? He said, you'd love this industry. I know you. I know how your mind works. I know, we've been talking about all these kind of things. Here's some books. Read them over. You'd love this. And then he recommended me through his manager, because my HR threw my CV out, because it was like English, no IT background on it at all. They threw it out. And he went to his manager and said, talk to her. Just take an hour out of your day, talk to her, and make this happen. So he was both a sponsor and a role model for me. That's how I entered the industry. My journey to get on a stage here is responsible, right there. A former colleague of mine, Rick Tracy, who's in the room, had seen my work, had seen how comfortable I was presenting in department meetings, and said, you'd love this. You'd learn and you'd grow, you can do this. Submit something. So I did, because it sounded kind of cool. He made it look really, really cool. And I got accepted. And I went to the first conference, which gave me the confidence to request from my manager that I could attend a large international one, which I then got to do. And I got to join this community of amazing testers. I found the women in testing community last year, which has been tremendously influential on me. So many role models there. And it has transformed my career. It has opened up so many eyes as to what I could possibly do. And so many role models who have become teachers, who have become coaches, who can talk about things like, I don't know how to do this, I don't know what I want to do, and they help me prioritize. And they direct me, so-and-so can teach you. Let's have a conversation. They've opened doors. Mara Pirievi, which I'm probably mispronouncing, she gave me the opportunity to sketchnote European Testing Conference earlier this year, which has opened so many other doors when it comes to visualization aspects, which has landed me my current role as an Agile test coach, where I coach teams and people, do visualizations exercises with teams as well. Our IT industry is changing rapidly, very, very quickly, and we all have the power to learn. So when it comes to your journeys, I ask you, who are your coaches that help you identify where it is you want to go? Who are your role models that you look up to? Who are your teachers that can give you instructions, specific tuition to learn a specific skill or knowledge set? And who are your sponsors? The ones who will cheer you on and open doors for you. Because ultimately, our industry is a people's industry. I can talk here about all these specific coding skills you might need, but you are the one who can identify in your current role what you need. Through your role models, you can identify which future roles you might want to have. And through them, you can find your teachers that will help you along the way. You're here at a conference, you're completely overloaded with information and people and all this new stuff which you could learn. I encourage you to go out, to take a breath, to find your place of comfort, and to choose very specifically, this is what I want to learn, and find these people. Almost everyone I've met in this community at Agile testing days, at test bashes, online, the testing community has been incredibly supportive. And if you work alone in your teams, you will probably do very good work. But you also very probably not grow a lot. So I encourage you to learn, I encourage you to grow. I encourage you then to realize that whenever we do this, whenever we step onto a stage, or whenever we do something brave for ourselves and learn a new skill, or do something scary, that in a lot of different ways we are the role models for those who come after. It's a very quiet room today. I realize it is Thursday. I encourage you to be brave. I encourage you to step into your learning zone whenever you can, to identify when you are in panic. Get yourself back to a place of rest first. The comfort zone is a really pleasant place to be. It's a very healthy place to be. And it is in the learning zone that we can then grow. We're all rooting for you. All of us are. I drew most of you on here. You're cool. So I want to thank you all for your attention. I am now going to open the floor to questions. I will be at the conference until, well, Saturday morning, but all the way till Friday, so feel free to approach me anyway, not in this context, but on the floor as well. I want to thank you all.
We have time for questions.
Of course, after being called out, I have to ask you questions.
Yeah. I knew that. I saw that one coming. I knew you were going to ask a question. You always do.
So, what kind of advice would you have for somebody who would really like to be more engaged in exploring, in looking at role models and mentorship, but feels that organizationally they don't get the space? How could they ask for it?
How could they ask for support? Because there's two different things in your answers. You don't need permission from anyone to find role models. Role models can exist for you within the organization, outside of the organization. You can find them even in stories, literature, books. They don't even have to be real. When it comes to making changes, to developing yourself, to learning on the job, it's a different question. Because that's when you need some autonomy at work. So I encourage you to speak up. Because I found that in most cases, when you actually speak up and clarify, vocalize what it is that you need, which your coaches can help you identify, change starts to happen. There's this thing that happens when you say, I am going to do this, which is very different from, I'd like to do this. Anytime you say, I'd like, you're hedging. You're giving someone a very open window to close. The moment you say, I'm going to do this, the reaction is very often going to be, how can I help? And if it's not that manager, or if you have a developer like I had on my team, then find someone who will sponsor you to move elsewhere as well. That is a choice.
I have the question that if you are struggling with what do you want to do or where you want to head at or what do you want to where you want to grow to, that also often means that you have to let go of some of the old stuff you were doing that you maybe like very much. So I'm struggling since months already to find out where I want to grow to, but it means letting go of stuff that I really like, and I don't know, what I want to let go the most of those things. And is there some tricks and tips on how to really find that out? Because I'm just feeling I'm turning all the time around the same questions and I cannot find the answer.
So when you're turning and turning and turning, you find that, as you said, you're not making any progress. It helps to talk these over with your coach. It helps to prioritize and say which are maybe the 3 most important things for me in life. Go back to your grounding values. Because if we work from our grounding values, the things that matter most for us, and we only pick those basic, fundamental 3 things for us, and let go of everything else, we start to create space. And it's a hard thing to do. I can preach it from a stage, and then I go back home and I have to make sure, even at this conference, I have to make sure I take rest. I take breaks. I give myself space to process, which I don't want to do because there are so many awesome people here and learnings and growth and potential for meetings and sessions and everything. But I can't enjoy those fully if I'm completely stressed out, if I'm completely exhausted. So I have to go back to what matters most for me and take my rest and take my debriefing moments in order to make the most value out of the things that I care about most. So it is talking that over with your coach to make it specific, to make it actionable for yourself. And what I very often find is that dreams change. Things that I really wanted to do last year, I've perhaps achieved already this year because I didn't realize how quickly dreams become reality as soon as you start to work for them. And it takes a moment of reassessment and perhaps a different coach and a different role model to get you on your next step of the journey. Because it's the journey that really matters. We're always working towards destinations. But it is in this moment, in this time, in this moment right now that we live our lives.
Thank you, Marianne. We're out of time for other questions, so feel free to approach Marianne afterwards. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.